Hi, Runner Story family. This is Allison Gilliard with Runner Story, where every story needs to be heard. And what an incredible story we have for you guys. First, we need to say thank you to Wagner's Run Walk for hosting this event and the connection that they made for us. And it was a book signing with the Jared Beasley, who is author of The Endurance Artist, Lazarus Lake, The Barkley, and The Race with No End. It was so good. And so our friends at Wagner's hooked us up, and we really appreciate that. And for Jared, coming all the way from New York on his book tour, so fun. He's a graduate of Alabama. Getting to sit down with him and hear his story, but also the story behind the story. So it was amazing. It was so much fun. You guys are also going to hear that it is not me asking the questions, and that is because I had lost my voice that week. And Gray, our editor, was so kind and gracious to step in and ask our questions. And it wasn't the typical questions, because what do you ask Jared Beasley? So he's a runner himself, and how he got into running, you guys are gonna love that story. And this has just really helped him write other books. And so I learned that about him, that The Endurance Artist is not his only book. You guys, you're gonna love him, and you're gonna wanna go buy all the things. And we were really excited because we got to do a giveaway for one of our Patreon supporters, who Kristen Rather won that book, a signed autographed copy of The Endurance Artist. And so that was also really fun. So it's been such really fun times getting to know Jared and sit down and hear his story and hear endurance athletes and endurance race directors are crazy cool people. And it was so fun. And the people that write about them are also crazy cool. So thank you, Jared, for sharing your story. Thank you for writing this book. Guys, go get it. It has been released, and it is called The Endurance Artist, Lazarus Lake, The Barkley, and The Race with No End. You guys are gonna absolutely love it. It's amazing. Jared has such a way with words. So really, really cool stuff. Speaking of really, really cool, we are so excited with our podcast partner this month, which is Bras Across the Causeway. Guys, I love nonprofits. They are what makes our world better, and they see a need and they fill a need. And Bras Across the Causeway is another incredible organization that does so much good for our community. They rock and roll with people. I mean, they get down in the trenches. They are there to help cover expenses with the warriors who are fighting for their life with breast cancer. And so if you know anybody that needs help, reach out to Bras Across the Causeway. Or if you would like to help, it's race week for Bras Across the Causeway, and you can still sign up for that. But also you can donate, you can sponsor, you can, I mean, the way they break it down and what your dollars go to, it's so important that we help our neighbors and our community. So Bras Across the Causeway do incredible stuff there. Also, if you want to go check out Magnolia Soap Company, their Hope Soap of the Month is Bras Across the Causeway. And so every purchase from there also goes to Bras Across the Causeway. So I love seeing community come together and help one another. So it's a different finish line for everyone. So definitely go out and support Bras Across the Causeway, and thank you to them because they believe in this running community, and the 5K they put on is one of my favorites. They do such an outstanding job. That being said, all right guys, get ready, get set, and go run with our friend Jared, the Endurance Artist author.
All right, well, thanks for coming, Jared. We're glad to have you here on the Running Story podcast. And what we like to do is we like to just hop right into the story. And so we want to talk about you and your story, like how you got involved with running, but also, of course, we want to talk about the book. We want to talk about Lazarus, your experiences with him and things like that. So how does your run story begin? What got you into running, and really what led you up to wanting to start writing books and meeting other ultramarathoners and things like that?
I would say that leaving Tuscaloosa in many ways began my journey running. Not directly, but indirectly. What I mean by that is I did not want to leave this place. I was a professional student, somewhere between 5.5 to 6 years that I was here. I was an actor. I was flunking out, and I was doing nothing but plays at the time. That was my entire life. And my whole family is from North Alabama. They don't leave. So when I left Tuscaloosa and moved to New York City, my world flipped upside down.
It was a paradigm shift,
to say the least. There had a park. I remember going to Bryant Park for the first time, and I called my family. I said, there are hundreds of people here staring at a patch of grass. So once I got there, I'll make this a really short story because it's actually a very long story. I was living in an 80 square foot room with a shared bathroom with a guy that used to live in the Amazon.
Okay.
He looked like a guy that used to live in the Amazon as well.
Still do.
His answer for everything was simple: run. I thought that was ridiculous. He said, show up tomorrow at noon. Though he was a scary looking figure, he had this mohawkish thing that he obviously did himself because it was never quite in the center. He had gold skulls for teeth.
Okay.
Did I mention the Amazon?
Yes.
But there was an authenticity to him. So I did show up, and he was running around this 200-meter cinder track. I couldn't keep up with him. I couldn't do a mile. Like a lot of us, when you start, you think you can do a lot more than you can, which is ironic because in the end, you can do a lot more than you think you can do. But when you start off running, you start off way too fast. I was trying to keep up with him because I'm a dude.
Right.
And I was a decent athlete growing up. But that started a series of years where I put a floor underneath me. Things didn't get worse from there. As far as my adjustment to New York and leaving Alabama, things like that. It wasn't a panacea for everything. I'd never say that to people. Running is going to cure all your ills. But it helped me a lot. And that was my running story of how I got started. And then I didn't stop.
So you started running a little bit more in New York, and you probably built your way up, maybe going from just running around the town to also maybe signing up for some races, doing things like that.
Yeah. I did races in Central Park. I did the New York City Marathon. It wasn't until that very same guy put me on to an old friend of his named Howie. He wanted me to find this guy.
Yes. And you wrote a book about him.
Eventually.
Yes.
After I found him in a care home up in British Columbia. And this guy had done things that were just unbelievable, running hundreds of miles to marathons, sleeping on the side of the roads or with strangers, then entering a marathon when he got to the city that he was heading to, winning that marathon, then running hundreds of miles back. It was really freakish.
Wow.
Just to give you a little glimpse of what he did at his peak, he ran 72 days across Canada, which was a world record that was held, I believe it lasted 31 years until Dave Proctor came along. But 2 weeks after he finished that run, he entered a 1,300-mile race in New York City, which is around a 1-mile loop. There's a group there called Moy that still does the longest certified race in the world. It's actually going on right now, I believe, the 3,100. You can find some documentaries about that. But back then, the longest certified race in the world was 1,300 miles long, run by that same group, Moy. Howie, 2 weeks after doing this 72-day run across Canada. So to do what he did to get that record, he was running 63 miles a day for 72 days.
That's crazy.
Takes a 2-week break, then enters this 1,300-mile race, finishes that in 16 days. Just a few years before that, it was called the Impossibility Race. Have you ever heard of Frank Shorter, the Olympian, the U.S. Marathon Olympian? He declared the race physically impossible. So when Howie was the first to do it in 1989, and then in 1991 when he did this run across Canada, showed up again, he was breaking a world record, his own. So when I started writing about him and got that book published, then the journalism came into play. I started writing for Runner's World, Ultra Running Mag, and then eventually some larger papers.
Absolutely. Sounds exciting, sounds fun. So you've met a lot of really cool people along the way. What got you interested in some of these obscure figures that are in the running community, in the ultra running community?
That's just me. I've always been on the outside of things.
Okay.
I've always had one foot in something. Here in Tuscaloosa, the first thing that comes to mind is my first play. I did 27 plays when I was here. I was a prolific collegiate actor. That's part of the reason I did not want to leave. I had my own universe here. The listeners don't know where we are right now, but just a few hundred yards from where we are is City Cafe, just where I lived and breathed. I had a punch card at City Cafe over here. Yeah. So being back here, I think about those things, and gosh, it's hard to really think about it now, but yeah.
And it's interesting to hear some of the crazy stories about these people.
Yeah.
And then you're going to interview these people, and you're finding out so much more than what you thought you were going to find out.
Oh, when I got here to the University of Alabama, it was a big eye-opening experience, and you meet people that you're not used to meeting. So we were talking about having one foot in something. I was in this play. As soon as I auditioned, I got cast. I'd never even seen a play. So I had to learn very quickly, learn the ropes. Same thing happened when I moved to Manhattan. I'd never really waited tables very much. And like acting, it was an impossible thing to get a job waiting tables in Manhattan. So I eventually got a job waiting tables in Manhattan, and I had to learn very quickly how to do it. What does pre-theater mean? Before the show, these people come in, they have to have their dinner in time for the show. So your entire section would be empty like this, and then bam, it's all set, and then they all have to get out by 8. If they don't, you're gone. You're gone.
Yes.
And it seemed impossible. Everything about moving to New York was impossible in so many ways. And I think that this will tie in when we get into the races later. All of these races that we're going to talk about have an element of impossibility to them.
Sure.
You feel like you can't do them, and that is the point.
There's a drive there.
There's a drive there. But just because something seems impossible, of course, or the fact that other people tell you it's impossible, really doesn't mean you need to give up, because when you give up on that and you try something else, there's going to be people that tell you that's impossible too.
Yes.
When I started here at the university and studied acting, our acting teachers told us, if you can do anything else, do it. Because the percentages were horrific of actors that make it out there.
Sure.
Writing is the same. When I started, when I came back to school here and finished my degree, that's when I really shifted gears. I had a minor that was a goose egg. I had no credits in my minor, which was literature. So I got to come back and really have a focused study with the head of the literature department. We did a correspondence course, dove deep into Melville and Hawthorne, people like that I was interested in. And then when you start writing, people tell you getting an agent's impossible. And it really seemed that way.
Sure.
It took me a year to get an agent for this book. I didn't have one for the first book that I did. I sold that book, I gave it away to the first publisher that I sent it to.
Well, you got to get your foot in the door somehow.
You do.
So sometimes it's things like that, and then people start believing you a little bit more. And they're like, okay, this is a prolific author, and we can believe in him when we put up some money back into it. So.
It's not going to go the way that you have it planned out. That's what Lazarus Lake's races really are about. If there's a through line through them, it's uncertainty. How to deal with that. And I think that's why it's transferable to readers well beyond just the running market or people that are into trails and things like that. I don't know about you, but I'm a huge fan of mountain climbing books. I'm scared as hell of climbing mountains. I'm not a huge fan of heights.
You live through someone else, though.
Yeah, you do live through them, and you learn something from the extremes.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you've talked about how you went into different environments and you had to learn new things in those. So going from running around New York with this Amazon guy to then going to ultra marathons and running those, what are some lessons that you've learned through running that has really impacted your life?
Not to give up on yourself. It's very easy to just wallow in self-defeat. When you're running, all of the gratification is delayed. That's what it is. Even if you're running a 400 meter, 800 meter, I did that in high school, you're seriously delaying some gratification there, 2 laps around that track. But ultras especially, you are really delaying gratification for enormous amounts of time. And I've learned through doing them that I usually came away saying, I'm never going to do that again.
We hear that all the time.
Yeah, yeah.
We have lots of people we interview. They run the hardest race they ever run. And then they say they're never going to do it again. And then the next day they sign up. Whatever's coming up next.
Yeah, it's common reaction. Then the next stage is, I can't wait to do that again. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So from my running, I also learned the things that I didn't necessarily want to do. It's not for everybody. It's a really wide market of ultramarathons out there, which, by the way, this is really an odd factoid, but it's relevant. In the last 20 years, marathons have plateaued. 5 and 10Ks have been on the decline of participants that are entering. Ultramarathons are up 1,600%.
Wow, okay. People are pushing themselves a lot more. And I think also just the word, just getting it out there. Even before we started the podcast, we'd never even heard of an ultramarathoner. So it was through interviewing people we started hearing it. And actually early on, it was like one of the first maybe 5 or 10 people we interviewed started talking about ultramarathons. We're like, that's a thing? People do that? And then you hear about stories about people going even beyond that and going across the whole country and things like that.
Yeah.
They just have these wild goals or these wild desires, and they just want to get out there, whether they're proving something to themselves or they're proving something to others, or they just want to get out there and just, what can I do? What is my limit? I don't even know what my limit is. How can I know unless I try and get out there and do it?
You won't know how far you can go until you fail.
Yeah.
That's a big part of Laz's races. There's always a question in your mind. How much did I leave on the field? But when you reach your limit, and I'm not talking about death, but we don't want that.
Right.
That's not really good for the industry, but.
Well, let's talk a little bit about Laz, how you met him, but also about these races that he's doing, because oftentimes we sign up for a race and we know what to expect, right? We understand that there's going to be people that are volunteering their time. They are making sure that the course is ready for us. They have water stations and things like that. There's going to be a finish line, medals maybe given out, things like that, podium. But with Laz, it seems like he wants to do something a little different.
With everything.
Yeah. So what are some differences that he's trying to introduce to some of his races?
Well, you have to look at it in the context of when he really started putting on these races. In the late 70s, actually. His first ultramarathon he created because there were no ultramarathons near him. He was living in Shelbyville, Tennessee. It's middle Tennessee, towards the south a little bit. And the closest one that he could find was in Atlanta. He signed up right away. He was so excited about it. A couple of weeks later, he got a letter saying that it was canceled for lack of interest. So he created his own. But there was something that he was picking up on as well, was that we were talking about 5 and 10Ks. Well, at that time, they were booming. And for him, it was a little bit boring that everything was a standardized distance. In his mind, it should be about the course. There should be some magic in the course, he felt. And that the distance should be just whatever that course you lay out is, not that we're all running against some number. You're running against something that's been created. So his first marathon turned out to be 29 miles long. Now, I probably don't need to tell you that did not go over very well with the local marathoners that are wanting to BQ. And then he doubled down on that the next year and created his first ultramarathon, which he billed as 40 miles, but was not. It was longer than that. It had taunts on the road, but it says, this is not a hill. Then you come to another one, this is not a hill. Finally, you got, now this is a hill. So he wanted to have fun. That's something that I've gotten from being around him, and he does have so much fun creating these things. And what he found was that once he got into the ultra distance, those runners got it. Not the ones that were running the 26.2 that wanted to BQ.
It's a different caliber of person that's wanted to go beyond a marathon.
Yeah. I harken back to something Christopher McDougall said in one of his talks about Born to Run, One of the things he found was studying marathoners when they come to the line. A lot of them are grimacing and gritting it out. But for some reason, ultramarathoners were all happy and gleeful, big smiles or something. Now, maybe that's an overgeneralization. But having been at many ultras and covered ultras now for a long time, there is definitely an element of truth to that. I can't say that I can pinpoint exactly what informs that, but there is a sense that they're striving for personal goals, personal limits, and that everybody is in it together.
Right. Well, we found that the running community is just so friendly, right? They help each other. They share advice with each other. They want to see other people succeed. Most people, yes, a lot of people are racing. They are racing a bit against other people, but in the end, they really are racing against their own PRs. Whatever they have set for themselves, that's what they're racing against. So when they help someone else, they don't see that as a detriment to their successes. They want to share things, and that's what we found. The running community is just a great community to be a part of.
Absolutely. At the Barkley Marathon, Lazarus' most famous race, I never hear people that are around the race or journalists that have covered it say so-and-so won the Barkley. And you also don't hear saying so-and-so lost the Barkley. It's just, did they finish? Did they do better than they did before? Did they get a fun run, which is 3 out of the 5 loops? Did they get a loop where they had never gotten a loop before? Or did they get 2? Think of Leonard Martin. He's in his 70s now. He's run Barkley 27 times. Laz lets him in with this kind of grandfather clause to bring him in as a kind of legacy runner, because Leonard's just been around. He wants to keep pushing himself to try to get better at it. Of course, he's not doing better now than he used to do, but he's never finished a fun run. But it means a lot to him. There's a family of people there, which goes against the narrative that you see in the media about the race, that it's this really sadistic, grueling, horrible place, which, by the way, it is. But it's also really supported by a group of people that are like family to one another, and other people that volunteer, that drive hundreds of miles out of their own wallets. They're coming there to help put up the tents, help put up the license plates. More and more, since Laz has gotten older, he's needed that help. It's the highlight of their year.
Absolutely. Yeah, and we are part of different organizations that put on races, and you can tell when they care. When they really care about the race and everything. It's not just about making a little bit of money on a race or whatever, but they really care about the participants and the people. It makes a difference for the runners. When you run a race that is not well put together, there's just some committee that needed to raise some money for an organization, and they said, well, none of us are runners, but we'll put on a race. You can tell. So when it comes to specifically the ultramarathoners, what is something that you would like people to know that typically don't run that, or maybe they're looking ahead at their schedule and they're thinking, I could run a little further, I could run a little further. What's something you would want them to know about ultramarathoners?
Ultramarathoners, like you said, are a very friendly group of people. They're very inviting. It's an eccentric sport. It used to be. It's becoming fairly mainstream now. With the fact that I was able to write about it for places like the New York Times or the Guardian several years ago, it was much tougher to get them to cover an ultramarathon. I would really encourage them to give it a try. You never know if you like it. You go out there and you do something that you don't know you can do. Nowadays, with the finish times of most marathons, you can walk it in. You can give it a go, you run, let's say half the way, you bonk. They got so many aid stations everywhere. You're surrounded by cheering crowds, and in the case of the city marathons. Yes. But you can walk it in and get it. You don't have that, I hate to say fear factor, but that uncertainty that I don't know if I can do this. And doing that really helps build, I think, a lot of confidence in yourself. It's a fun thing to experience. It's a challenge.
Well, we've heard a lot of stories about people who, when they run that marathon for the first time, that they just learn something about themselves that they didn't know. They didn't know that they could really push through that. And then the ones that even go further than that, they're like, well, I want to go further than the marathon. Then something happens in their mind, something happens with their body. Sometimes when they're running, they just feel numb to everything that's going on. And then all of a sudden they come back to themselves and they have, I don't know, some epiphanies,
Right.
things like that. They just start thinking about things, about life in general, philosophy, they just hadn't thought of before.
Right.
And it wouldn't have happened had they not started running these long distance. You're exhausted. You're going through a lot of painful things with your body. Things are happening and you're not sure what's going to happen next. Or you may be in the middle of a road and there's really no one around. There's no one behind you. There's no one in front of you. And you're just out there and you're just pushing through.
I love marathons. I love half marathons. I tell people that say, why should I do an ultra? If you are doing 3 miles a day, 10 miles on the weekend, whatever it is, it's your distance, and that's your jam. I get those thoughts from just doing 3 miles. I go for a 3-mile run. I usually come back with writing ideas. So I tell people, if you're totally fine doing that, you don't need to run an ultramarathon. You don't have to have that. But if you want to go up against something and challenge yourself in a way that you really feel, I'm not sure if I can do this. I think that there's something that's going on when we look at that 1,600% rise in ultramarathons, that people are feeling that.
Yes.
There's a book that came out a couple of years ago called The Comfort Crisis. I highly recommend that book. It has a lot of statistics. The bottom line is that there are so many companies, smart people, industries out there that are trying to make our lives easier. Communicate easier, get to places easier, get products easier.
At our detriment in some cases.
Can be at our detriment. Dating now happens by swiping on your phone. Everything is a bit disconnected. So I think that is part of what's going on. We're not only seeing it in ultra running. There's sports like free diving, which is one of the most dangerous sports in the world. They take one breath and they go down hundreds of feet into the ocean for several minutes. Back in 1988, when the Big Blue came out, which featured free diving, but it was a very niche sport. Now it's growing by 10% a year. They have these hot spots, training schools all over the world. They have free diving influencers and parkour. I don't know if you've seen these nuts videos on TikTok where people are flipping off of rooftops and landing on, you've seen that?
Landing on like just a pillar.
Yeah, landing on a pillar.
You can barely fit one foot on, and
Right.
somehow they're able to flip, and then land on this thing.
Right, right,
And then you ask yourself, okay, well then where are you going from here?
right, right.
You made it to the pillar. Where are you going to go now?
It's absolutely, it makes me very nervous to watch. You would never imagine that it's become a $5 billion industry, and it's predicted to double in the next 10 years. When it comes to ultra running, I think it's way more accessible. People tell themselves that it's just exhaustion. It's just running. So it's an extreme sport that you can engage in without, like in the case of free diving, 50 to 60 people die a year. Parkour has a remarkably low instance of injuries. They average 5 injuries for every 1,000 hours of training.
Okay.
Because when you fail big. When it comes to ultra running, it's not quite that way. You bonk, maybe you don't finish. I've failed a lot in ultra marathons. I wouldn't say I had a DNF except for Laz's race, which he would challenge me to do. But the backyard, everybody's a DNF except for the winner,
Exactly.
which is a bizarre thing.
Yeah. It's like a last man standing.
Oh, yeah. And a lot of times last woman standing. 2019-20, you had Courtney DeWalter. You had Maggie Guterall, or it might have been 2021, but back-to-back years, you had a female overall winner in the backyards. Laz has told me on multiple occasions, if Courtney DeWalter wanted to, she just decided that was the way she was going to go, she would be the best backyard ultra runner in the world.
Just got to put her mind to it, right? Or just need a little more encouragement.
Yeah.
So let's say someone is interested in becoming ultramarathon or trail runners, things like that. What's some advice that you would like to give to someone who's either on the fence or they're just not sure exactly where to start, what to do? What's some advice you would give to them?
Pick your avenue first of what you like to do. If you're a trail runner, obviously you're going to want to do that. If you're not a trail runner, don't do the trail. Because I tried that.
Okay.
And you're going to be in a very different environment that you're not used to.
Yes.
So
There's roots that jump out of the ground at you.
purposely,
Yes.
purposely, yes. Stones too are known to do that.
Yes.
These toe tappers are really the devil. So you see the boulders, you don't see the little 1-inch suckers sticking right up out of the ground, and they're all the same. Next thing you know, you're on the ground, all your kit's laying around like a yard sale.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
But if you are a road ultramarathoner, there are plenty of those for you. I think one of the most beginner-friendly formats is the timed events. They're also the oldest. These have been around for hundreds of years. In my hometown in Decatur, there's a 12-hour race in Delano Park. It's around a really cute park with swing sets and tennis courts. The trail, it's a trail. It's a cinder path. Meanders through that. It's a great thing. So you have 12 hours to do as many miles as you want. They used to call these go as you please races. Someone asked me the other day, how do I run this race? What should my strategy be? You can rest as much as you want. You can run as hard as you want. Do whatever you want for 12 hours. Those are very accessible. If you can find those around you, I'd highly recommend it. And of course, you can always go Marathon B and do the 50Ks, which are around. If you love trails and you want to go for it, there's so many people out there that they want to go all the way right in the beginning, you know. And there's so many people now that got that 100-miler in their mind. Backyards are a wonderful place to start, and they're popping up everywhere. If you get in a backyard, all you have to do is 4 miles. It's 4 miles an hour, every hour, starting on the hour. But you can quit anytime that you want. There's nobody forcing you to keep going. You have your gear, your supplies.
And there's a different mentality there with that, right? Because you do have that option of quitting. Like even after the first lap, you have the option of quitting. So a lot of psychology, whenever you're in that situation, if you're in pain and you're saying, I'm exhausted, I don't know if I can do another one. There's some people that will say, I'm done. That's it. I don't want to push myself too far. I don't want to get even further injured and things like that. But then there's other people who say, I'm going to push through it. And a lot of those people end up going through the pain. And then the pain doesn't appear again. Like it goes away, is what I'm saying. And they just keep going. And then at that point, they just do several laps after that. Do you see that as well?
Absolutely. If you can tell yourself and convince yourself that the pain is only a part of you, then you can see it as discomfort.
Right. It's not you, it's a part of you.
And then you can manage it much better. It's discomfort, it's temporary, and it'll go away.
Right.
Then you can keep going. Of course, there's a big difference between just doing a backyard and the elite level when you get to the world championships. But Laz, one of the things that he has said to me many times is that the biggest mistake he ever made was calling it an ultra. If you do 2 laps, you've done 8 miles. And maybe, okay, you come back and you do a 3rd loop, and you're still well short of even a marathon. So people can set their own limits and have their own ideas of success and failure.
Well, what about you, Jared? So whenever you are in a race, you're running, you've trained for things, and something happens. It's really hard. Like it's harder than what you've experienced before. What is something that you tell yourself? What is a mantra or a slogan or saying that maybe you just talk yourself out of it or tell yourself, this is temporary, I can get through it?
Well, we need to have a little separation here.
Okay.
I'm a rider first, runner second. I had to remind the other runners of this when I entered Laz's backyard race. I was really nervous. You get there, and it literally is in his backyard with the woods, and the starting arch there says, "There is no finish." Okay. He's over there smoking a cigarette, grimacing at this clock ticking down. And I looked over to a lady that was beside me, and I told her that. I said, "I'm a rider who runs. I'm not a runner who rides." She didn't know what I meant, but I was starting to make excuses in my mind already.
Well, isn't most runners, though, they have the profession during the week, and then they just run at night or early in the mornings, and then the weekends?
Sure. Yeah. And that's me. Well, I run more than that. But when you enter something like that with those people, and he's there,
There's high.
I can say this now. I said this the other night in Tennessee, and I almost got booed. But when you run in front of him, it's a bit like throwing a football in front of Nick Saban.
Okay.
You're a little bit nervous. That even at the Barkley, they don't want to run in front of him. He would say they don't want me to see him run. He's been around the sport for so long. He's been writing about it for over 4 decades. So what I wanted to separate is that I've learned a lot from runners that have gone out there and done incredible things. And that is not me. So I'm a study in what we all experience, I think: bonking, telling yourself something, quitting for the wrong reasons, convincing yourself that you should be doing this or you shouldn't push yourself further, or what's the point? There comes a time in all of these really long races where you go, what is the point of this thing, right? And if you listen to that, you're the average runner like me. I listen to that. But there are other people that I've written about that have helped me in my writing, they helped me in my life, helped me be a better dog owner, a better husband. I think about Harvey Lewis. What an incredible story. Harvey spent 10 years of his education life from first grade to 10th grade in special ed. He's now an AP government teacher in Cincinnati High School. He's always worked himself slowly out of situations. Nothing happened easy for him. He ran his first marathon when he was 15, ran it in 5 hours and a half, something like that. Took him 5 years to break 5 hours. Well, now Harvey Lewis is a 14-time Badwater finisher. He's won it twice. And he's a former record holder of Bigg's backyard Ultramarathon. When I was going through some really tough times with the book, and there were a lot of tough times with the book where I didn't know how to go forward, I asked him in an interview with him, we're going through all his stuff, and I said, by the way, I don't know how to go forward anymore at this point. He said, when I'm at Badwater in Death Valley, it's a 135-mile run, and things start to go south, I just try to make the next light pole.
Yes.
So I took that, if I can
Short-term goals.
Yeah. If I can just get through the next chapter, get through this chapter to the next, or get through this sequence. And I remember the film Touching the Void, going back to the climbing stuff we were talking about earlier. A great film, great book. 2 climbers that went up into the Andes and they got stranded up there really, really bad. Then they were separated. One guy had a broken leg. There was no way he was going to make it back to camp. It was completely infeasible that he was going to be able to crawl his way all the way back to camp. So he gave himself these mini goals, just make it to the next rock, and he would time it. And if he didn't make that rock in a certain amount of time, he would break down in tears. He kept giving himself these small goals until he made it back to camp.
Right.
Yeah.
So when you're running these races, you're feeling like some of those experiences are coming back. Like you're trying to make these short-term goals and say, if I can just make it to that tree or that bush or that stop sign or whatever it happens to be.
Yeah.
And then just push right on through.
Yeah.
Just keep going.
A great tool for people that want to up their mileage is you do an out and back. You go out there, just go a half a mile further. You're going to have to come back.
Right.
So that's 1 more mile there.
However far you go out is halfway.
That's it.
And then you come back.
If you can make yourself just go a little bit further.
So you're on this book tour with the endurance artist, And you actually had to have Laz with you on a couple of these. What was the experience like now that the book is written and now he's with you on the book tour? What's that experience like?
It's great now. It's all gravy now. It was impossible in the beginning. For 2 years, he kept me on a string, trying to get a press pass to his races. And in 2022, I got a chance to do my second article for the New York Times. And this was a big deal for me. They had this new race that they were going to send me to. They wanted me to go check out called the Backyard Ultra World Team Championship. And they were going to send me to Tennessee. I was pumped. The race was insane, ambitious, over the top, and gorgeous. I had to do it. I had to cover it. He wouldn't give me a press pass. This race was unlike anything I had ever seen. So it was going to be 37 countries at the same time running a backyard in their own countries.
Okay.
Simultaneously. Each race would be running against the other race. So they would have a team of 15 runners.
This is done at the same time zone? Like around the world it's happening at the same time?
So imagine this. So he put me through several cryptic emails, a math problem. Then
He likes math.
He then had me come down and run one of his backyards. I still didn't get the pass. He gave me a Zoom link. So on October 15th of 2022, I clicked that Zoom link. And this goes to your question. Up popped 37 boxes with a different nation inside each, in their own time zone, obviously. So it's 7 a.m. Central Time. He rang a cowbell, yelled happy time. And in Germany, they took off in a rainstorm from a stadium.
Wow.
It was nighttime in Vietnam when they left under the circle of Christmas lights. In the Ukraine, they were running under a sky streaked with cruise missiles. Instead of bells and horns, they were whispering to each other. 1, 2, 3, go. Doing their loops in between these bunkers, dugouts with tires thrown in and things like that. In South Africa, a brush fire erupted. They were running around this thing. They rerouted it. And they kept going and going and going.
There was just no other day that they could do this? That was the only day they could do this?
You never know what's going to happen. You never know. Pick a day, something's going to go bad.
It is around the world, yes.
Yeah. And the conceit is that the individual winner of all of those would earn an invite for the following year to his backyard in Tennessee for an individual championship to duke it out. So my article came and went. I didn't hear from him for a little bit. And then I got an email one day from him, and he said, failure has to hurt. And he said that you can go a lot farther than you think you can. And he included 2 passes for the 2023 Barkley and the 2023 Bigg's Individual World Championship. He said one is man versus mountain. The other is man versus himself. One is, can you do it? And the second one is, will you do it?
Yes.
And that became the spine of the book. Because he knew what I was after. He knew that I'm a profiler. I don't write about the nuts and bolts and biomechanics of running or advice. I should have told you that before. I don't do that. I was here at Alabama and studying theater, studying literature. So I profile runners. He knew that I wanted to write about him.
Yes.
He knew I wanted to do a book on him. So that was a opening of the door, cracking open of the door into the world of his races and his life. So the book then weaves his story through those 2 events of that year.
So you don't like to give advice on what's happened, but what about advice on writing? What would we've interviewed several authors already. I'm sure that there's other people in our community that would love to write books about running and different things like that. What's some advice you would give to them?
I'm not big on advice because I feel that nobody takes it. They're just going to do their own thing. Everybody has to find their own way. I've been a big advice asker in my life, and some of it has at least helped me in the back of my mind. I like to think about. But with writing, it's the same as these races. It's the same as a lot of things. People are going to tell you that you're not going to be able to make any money at it. Of course, there's truth to it. There's truth to all these things. But if you really want to do it, and you've got to do it, then you will. You will do it.
Yes.
Writing is definitely an art of hoarding your words. Don't throw anything away. Don't delete anything. Just save it into another folder.
Yes.
Call it scraps, call it crap, call it whatever you want to do. But go back. You don't want to lose that. Write everything down. If you come back from a run, it may have nothing to do with what you're writing about now, but it's coming to you for a reason.
Yes.
Write that down.
And journaling it.
Journaling it, whatever you want. A lot of people get intimidated by journaling or diaries. They feel like they have to have a kind of Barbara Walters with himself and reveal their deepest, darkest secrets, but it's not always that. A lot of times it's a stream of consciousness kind of thing. You don't know why this is coming to you or what it's about, but you write it down and then later on you go, oh, now I do know what it's about.
Yes. So with the enduring artist, kind of closing up here. So what is a takeaway that you have from the book, from start to finish, whether just writing it all or just in its complete form? What is a takeaway that you have that's affected your life?
Well, I've already said it, that you can do a lot more than you think you can do. But in this case, I would add that a lot of us judge books by their covers with people. We're trained to do that. It's our instinct over millions of years to size people up and try to figure these things out. In America, at first glance, Lazarus Lake looks a bit like a homeless person.
Sure.
In France, he can hardly walk down the street. I learned that when I came into his world, my preconceived notions of pain, of difficulty, and my notions of him as a person and as a race creator was nowhere near what I think the truth was of who he is. It's easy to label him a sadist and all that, and maybe he has some of that, but that's not what he's intending.
Sure.
And when you're writing in the media space, you assume that these people have been here forever and these races, and that's what they do. They create these races and they just live inside that bubble, but they're real people. He's a father of 3 kids. He was a volunteer coach for 30 years, created an elementary school traveling basketball team. All of these races that we're talking about, the Barkley Marathon's one of the most famous ultramarathons in the world now. Thousands apply every year for 40 spots. Backyard ultramarathons are in 80 countries. Countries like Brunei, Morocco, Mauritius, Malta. It's really surreal. And I think it's important to remember that this guy was a city treasurer in Shelbyville, Tennessee. He was doing this in his spare time.
Yes.
So when we look at these people, there's always going to be a huge backstory to everybody's story, to you, me, whatever. So that was a really big takeaway from me, because I was constantly surprised by him, by the people around him, in many different ways. I don't want to paint him as being angelic. I don't think people would believe me if I said that, but he's definitely a surprise.
Yes. And you are archiving his story, right? That's a lot what we do with Running Story, is we get people to tell their stories and we're just archiving it. And you see people in a different way. When you go to a race and you've never been there before, and you just see a lot of people that you know that they're just out there going for a run. But what have they been through? What got them to that start line to start that race? What's motivating them to be there? Did they just have a tragedy in their life? Or did they just overcome something like cancer? What is it? And then we archive their stories. And then when you go to the race, you see the person, you're like, I know where they're at in their story. And it's not over with yet. And they're still going through, and they're doing these things. So Jared, it's been great to hear from you and to get to know you a little bit more. How can people find out more about all the books that you've written, your publications, things like that, your social media?
Right. My website is jaredbeasleyny.com. There are many links there to purchase the book, The Endurance Artist. Also, some of my journalism is there. My social media is DBJared on Twitter, which is what I use the most because I'm a writer of the words. little bit new to Instagram, but I'm catching on fast, man.
Okay.
And I'm digging it. TikTok, I tried, failed. Maybe not going to be my thing. I'm Jared B. New York on Instagram. We have the Bigg's Backyard Ultra World Championship coming up next month.
Oh, nice.
And it's going to be huge. There are several runners that have made it over 100 hours. The world record now is 119 hours of running. Something like 50 runners have made it over 80 hours. It's going to be a knockdown, drag-out battle royale. Meg Eggert, watch out for her. She recently broke 600 miles for 6 days.
Wow.
First woman to do that. And she was at the Backyards last year and came up second, which is interesting. In Backyards, the second place runner, it gets a lot of respect. Like a lot of things with Laz, they're backwards. The only person there that doesn't reach their limits is the winner. But the second place runner is the one that really went far, really pushed that other runner to get to that point, because you can only go one more loop beyond the second best runner there. And Meg Eggert was the second best runner. And if it had been any other day, I have a strong feeling she would have been the first runner. That really taught her how to pace herself. I think she learned a lot about her own body and needs. I hate to be speaking for her, but I think it's safe to assume that she learned a lot, because that 600 miles in 6 days came not too long after that.
Well, we have a lot of people in our area that would probably be very interested in those kind of races. We either interviewed or we're trying to interview some of these people. So
Yeah.
it's very exciting to see what people can do and to share their stories.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jared, for being on the podcast with us.
Thank you so much for having me.
So much fun to hear Jared Beasley and his story and the story behind the story with Lazarus Lake. Jared, thank you so much for all that you do to open us up to learn about other ultramarathoners and race directors and their stories, because we know how powerful and important these stories are. And so the fact that you have put it from mouth to ink to paper is just absolutely incredible. And so thank you for what you do. Thank you for giving us the privilege to read your incredible works of art and to learn more about these guys. And so I highly encourage you guys, if you're listening and you're like, wow, I really want to know more about this, go to his website, Jared Beasley. You can also find him on social media, and you can also find him on the Run Your Story website. We are going to add a link that will have where you can find his book, because it's so good. It's so incredible. Anytime we get to sit down with not only runners, but runners who write, it's just so fun and different and something unique about that, because they have such a cool perspective from being the runner to the author and really knowing how important these stories are. So thank you, Jared, for taking the time. The Alabama boy, a Roll Tide. It was so much fun. So thank you for that, and thank you for taking the time with us on your busy book tour. So really, really appreciate you guys. And I highly recommend his book. It's so fun. You guys will really enjoy it. And Jared is just such a really cool person. Him and his wife, absolutely amazing people. So thank you guys so much for sharing your stories. Thank you to Greg Gilliard from Gilliard Tech Services. He did such an amazing job asking the questions when I didn't have a voice, and he knew how important this interview was. And so he was like, we're not rescheduling. You're gonna go in, I'm gonna ask the questions. So he did a phenomenal job. And so thank you to Greg Gilliard from Gilliard Tech Services. Not only is he the guy behind the screen and the guy editing the website and the podcast, but now also the interviewer. So I really appreciate that so much for him stepping in. Guys, if you have any website designs or desires that you need or have no idea where to start, definitely reach out to him. He is our go-to, and we are so honored by that, to have him as part of the Run Your Story team. And make sure you also check out the Run Your Story blog. Dave McDonald does such a great job checking out the gear and shoes and all the things, because we know that this sport can be expensive. And so before you spend some money, read what he likes and what he really breaks down the shoe or the gear all together, and he does a great job of that. So thank you, Dave, for doing that as well. And thank you to our podcast partner of the month, which is Bras Across the Causeway. Guys, an extraordinary group of people that do amazing things. And we love Kathy and Courtney and everyone at Bras Across the Causeway. They do so much good work for our Mobile, Baldwin County areas. And it's race week. We're getting prepared for that. They are so excited. This is going to be one of the biggest races from the Mobile side. And so we are very excited about this, that they believe in the Run Your Story community. They believe in runners, but they also know how good this community is in giving. And so in giving to our neighbors and giving to those that we might even know that is going through breast cancer or another type of cancer. So definitely reach out to them, because one of the things that I've learned is that people fighting breast cancer, they already have enough going on. And so let them worry about fighting for their health. Let's, as a community, fight to keep them in their homes and groceries on their table and gas in their tanks and whatever else that they need assistance with. Bras Across the Causeway is there. And so they do an amazing job of doing that. And so also you can swing by Magnolia Soap Company anytime this month and pick up the soap of the month, the Hope Soap, which is one of my favorite things to do each month. And this month, all proceeds go to Bras Across the Causeway. So there's several different ways to help contribute. Come run the 5K, come cheer, come sponsor, come volunteer, whatever it is, get involved. And let's show those fighting breast cancer and any type of cancer that you are not alone, that your community loves you, and we're gonna make sure that you have this chapter written and that you beat it. That's what we want. That's what we want as a community. So thank you, Bras Across the Causeway. And thank you, Magnolia Soap Company Mobile, for doing what you're doing. You guys are absolutely amazing. So thank you to our Patreon family members. We absolutely love you. Congratulations to Nell, who won a free entry to Bras Across the Causeway. Partner with them, we got a free entry. And so we were really excited to be able to give that away. Again, another Patreon supporter, another Patreon perk. So thank you so much for that. And we love that we get to spoil our Patreon members just a little bit here and there. Thank you for believing in this podcast. Thank you for believing in what we're doing. And we're so grateful for each and every one of you. Guys, thank you for listening. Make sure you like, share, comment. We'd love to hear the feedback. We'd love to know what you think. We'd love to know if you read Jared's book. It's going to be amazing. So cannot wait to hear what you guys think. And we want all your stories to be heard. And how we do that is by sharing, is by liking, is by commenting. So get it out there and let's get your stories heard. All right, guys, until next time, go run your story, because every story needs to be heard.